Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do realize that I'm pretty early today, but it is the very first week of the NFL, and this is, as I mentioned, the Odell Beckham edition, Week One NFL picks for 2020. And for Odell Beckham, you just got to make sure. Listen, if you're a male or a female and you're dealing with Odell, you got to make sure to have these four things. I'm just saying because we know he's a little shaky. And listen, whatever he does is his business, but you have to make sure to have these four items if you're going to deal with OBJ. Make sure that you have your wipes. Make sure you have plenty of this, preferably Scott. And also make sure you have your can. We already know the deal. And also that you have your multi-purpose cleaner. I mean, those are just suggestions. Hey, Third War Colombian, what's going on, man? So you make sure you have those four items, and you should be good to go. I'm just saying. But I'm going to start these NFL picks for Week 1 of 2020. And we're going to start with the Thursday night game. And that is the Houston Texans taking on the world champion Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. If you know, obviously, I'm not a fan of Pat Mahomes, but he is a wonderful quarterback, and there's reasons for that. And if you are subscribed to my channel, you know why. Just look over the archives of my channel, and you know why I'm not a fan of his. Now, is he a wonderful quarterback? Absolutely. Does he have the best set of receivers in football? He has the fastest set of receivers, and he's got probably the best deep threat in the game with Tyreek Hill. He's got a wonderful tight end, probably the best in football in Travis Kelce. Listen, Gronk was out for the last, year and a half when you add injuries, so I can't put him there. Their offensive line is very solid, of course. Their running game does leave a lot to be desired, but they are very explosive. And when you have the quarterback with the arm talent of a Patrick Mahomes, you can get away with a lot more things. That being said, the guy on the other end of that spectrum that's facing him tonight, you could make a case that he is a much better athlete, and it's not even close. He's a much better runner of the football. He's almost as polished. Now, he's going to have to do more, Third War Colombian, without DeAndre Hopkins. There's no question about that. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the top three receivers in football. In my book, it's Julio Jones, number one, DeAndre Hopkins, number two, Michael Thomas, number three, Tyreek Hill, number four. The fifth guy, jeez. Oh, boy. You know what? Not really. I don't know who the fifth guy would be. But those are my top four anyway. If you can come up with a fifth guy, go ahead. I'm just not. Those are my top four. I don't really have a fifth guy. I can't think of a fifth guy right now. Ironically, the best receiver in the NFL over the past couple of years, well, he self-destructed. And he was far above all of the guys that I mentioned. And this will be the only mention I'll have of him. And he's the ex-Pittsburgh Steeler, of course, Antonio Brown. He was the best wide receiver in football when you add it all together. But Obviously, we know what happened with him, and he'll probably never play in the NFL again. Now, Houston's defense, I mean, they're pretty good. Now, J.J. Watt will probably be coming back from injury, but I don't expect him to be the same player. I mean, he was playing very well before he got hurt. You think DeAndre is the number one receiver? And the reason, well, I don't, and listen, that's a fair point. I am not. Listen, this you can say it's a 1 and a 1A, and I get it because I remember that year where DeAndre Hopkins was the guy. Now, let's be fair. DeAndre Hopkins had a great teacher because if you remember, Andre Johnson was the best receiver in football, in my opinion, and that's who he learned under. That's part of the reason why DeAndre is who he is. Hey, good morning, Jasmine Virgo. How are you this morning? I know this is a rare morning upload for me, but I want to do my NFL picks because obviously this evening will be the NFL, the beginning of the NFL schedule. So, and I understand that. Listen, if you want to put DeAndre number one, I have absolutely no problem with it. And I understand, listen, Julio Jones has had guys around him, so to speak. I'm doing well, and listen, we're blessed and highly favored, as we all are here in this chat and here in the YouTube community, at least in our community. I have no problem. No problem. And I'm a fan of DeAndre Hopkins, and I do believe he's going to have a big year with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to surprise some people. They really will. Would I be shocked if they went 8-8, 9-7? Absolutely not. They are that good. Ryan, listen, you don't need to. And I certainly did. And she was grateful to you. And thank you so very much. Oh, trust me, I've seen those clowns. Now, Deshaun Watson is not a clown. He is a top flight NFL quarterback. He has a chance to be extra special. And I wouldn't be shocked. I tell you what, I could see him being in the top 3 in the MVP voting. No question about it. I don't know if they'll make the wild card spot in the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. That depends on their defense more than their offense. I think they'll be able to move the ball fine. Their defense is so suspect. I do believe that the 49ers are going to come back crashing down to earth. I do believe in that Super Bowl loser hangover, and I certainly don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. He was exposed during the entire playoffs. Even though they made the Super Bowl, he played so poorly, and he flat out lost the Super Bowl last year. So even though I have the Cardinals coming in last place, I have them at 7-9, 8-8. Could they go 9-7? They absolutely could. Now, the 49ers can go from first to worst because, to be fair, San Francisco has the worst quarterback. Listen, it doesn't hurt having Larry Legend there listen, he's had that's 2 great ones that he's been with. As I mentioned, Andre Johnson, who does not get enough credit. Andre Johnson was an absolute stud. And Larry Fitzgerald is one of the great wide receivers of all time, period. He is one of the great playoff wide receivers I've ever seen. Listen, I'm a Steeler fan, so I'm a little biased. Man, Andre Johnson is the most underrated wide receiver in NFL history, bar none. Andre Johnson could play in any era. He was a great player, a great player. It's sad he did not get a ring. And again, I'm a Steeler fan, so I'm a little biased. The best big game wide receiver I've ever seen was Lynn Swann. He was back. If he played in today's NFL, forget it. Because Lynn Swann used to get murdered. But that's another story. See, I'm too easily sidetracked. I love y'all, man. I love the interaction. Thank you guys so much. I would love to pick the Houston Texans to win this football game because I'm not a Kansas City fan. I actually do respect Andy Reid to a point. Um, I have to go with Kansas City. Now, this year's a very weird year because obviously there are going to be no crowds, or the crowds might be somewhere like 10, 20%, if they even do any crowds, which would be stupid to me. Is this Big Ben's last year as a Steeler, or at least, you know what? I'll get to that a little bit later when I get to the Steeler part. I'm glad you asked that question. Quick, I'm going to put it like this. I wanted Big Ben gone before last season, and you can look that up if you look at my channel. I did a segment last year. I wanted Big Ben traded. I wanted him traded for the first pick for the Redskins, which would have been Dwayne Haskins. If the Steelers had Dwayne Haskins last year, they would have made the playoffs. And my thing is, Big Ben, and listen, has he had a great year? Oh, listen, Bill O'Brien's a clown. Bill O'Brien is an absolute clown. I know what you meant. Bill O'Brien, the only reason he got that job is because he was a disciple of Bill Belichick, and we all know how that works out. All these Bill Belichick clones, they are never successful as NFL head coaches. And then they added the fact that he sort of bought Penn State from the brink, and that's why he got his job. But Bill O'Brien he's the third most overrated coach in pro football. The most overrated coach in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, is John Gruden, and you know why. But see, again, y'all sidetracking me now. I have to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win 34-24 over the Houston Texans. I don't want to do it, but I just think that their offense is too high powered. I don't think Houston's secondary is not what it used to be. And Mr. Joseph is long in the tooth, excuse me. I have the Pats winning 10 games with Cam Newton. They will not win the division. I think Buffalo will. But I think that the Patriots are the more dangerous team in the playoffs because of Belichick and Cam Newton. And Cam Newton has a chip on his shoulder. The next game I have are the Seattle Seahawks going to Atlanta to face the Falcons. I actually have the Seattle Seahawks as my pick in the NFC to win the Super Bowl. Listen, I hope they win. I mean, just because I pick certain things that I don't need to be right all the time. Even though I did a good job with my picks last year. I would love for the Texans to win this game, but I don't see the Chiefs losing this game. Not at the beginning of the season. I just don't. Russell Wilson. I understand Lamar Jackson won the MVP. And I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve it. Lamar Jackson was phenomenal last year. Russell Wilson should have been the MVP. We'll get to that a little bit later. The Bucks and the Saints. I am a huge Russell Wilson fan. I am. I've always been. I hate that coach. I hate Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll cost that team a dynasty with that stupid play. He should have been fired right after. But anyway, they have the best running game, at least they had last season, even though Chris Carson fumbles entirely too much for my liking. They have a very good wide receiver core. Their defense is not the Legion of Boom anymore, but they are very solid. I mean, their linebackers are phenomenal. Wagner, Clark, and those guys, they are phenomenal. The Atlanta Falcons, I told you how I feel about Julio Jones. And this is why I think Julio Jones is the best receiver in football. And I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. To me, and Mike Evans does have a hamstring issue, and he's had that for a while. But see, Mike Evans is a big receiver, so it doesn't affect him as much as others. Matt Ryan is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in all of pro football. I throw the ball stronger than Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, man, I'm just not a fan. He can find defeat in the jaws of victory. Matt Ryan should have had 2 Super Bowl rings. He found a way to lose against Seattle years ago. He was dreadful. We already know what happened in the Super Bowl. Julio Jones is more sure-handed than T.O. And listen, I was a Terrell Owens fan, and but Julio was a faster Terrell Owens, especially before the ACL tear. T.O. is a much more physical receiver than Julio, but I think he's more polished. He was a more polished route runner than T.O. Much more polished. But the thing about the Falcons, and Matt Ryan might play well, and I don't think he will. I think he'll struggle against Seattle's defense. But the the Atlanta Falcon defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. At least it was last year. They are dreadful. T.O. and Randy are your 2 favorites. Listen, you're a lot younger than I am, sir. So, see, I can name 5 receivers better than both of those guys, in my opinion. And listen, those guys are great. And the fact that they should have been first. Randy is first ballot. Yeah, I got you by about 20 years, bro. T.O. was a wonderful wide receiver. And listen, as far as guts, he doesn't get enough credit for playing with that broken leg in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. He was the best player on the field, T.O. Randy Moss, when you quit on your team, and listen, you know what? He doesn't get enough flack for quitting against Oakland. I understand Oakland was a terrible team. I get it. But you can't quit on your team the way he did. Talking about and I understand, listen, all of them take plays off. I get it, man. But I'm not as big a Randy Moss fan. And Randy had all the physical tools in the world. But listen, if you tell me that, and I know if you see the 70s wide receivers were a lot more limited because, you could do whatever the heck you want with them until the 1978 season when you had the 5-yard rule and things like that. See, T.O. told the truth about Donovan McNabb too, and that's also, a big thing. And to me, McNabb was a big phony. And a lot of those guys in that locker room sided with T.O., and they just wanted to make T.O. look like he was the bad guy. I like Terrell Owens myself. Now, he acted a fool in Dallas, and that's what sort of hastened the end of his career. He actually played well for the Bengals. Him and Chad Johnson, they were actually very good together. And they should have bought both of those. Yeah, McNabb's soft. He's a sucker. McNabb. See, McNabb's one of those Negroes who wanted to please everybody and couldn't please anybody. But that's another story. I like the Seattle Seahawks over the Atlanta Falcons, 30-27. See, y'all gonna have me here for hours, man. The next game I have are the New York Jets traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills. The Jets, and I live in New York. The Jets we have joke football teams here in the city. Nah, you're not distracting me, man. Trust me. In fact, if anything, I encourage that. Trust me, man. I definitely encourage it, man. I love the interactions. And I love the fact that, hey, first off, the fact that you took the time out to even join me, I'm grateful for that, man. So trust me, just do what you do, brother. I appreciate it. Le'Veon Bell was a bust. And I saw that come. I really thought that he would do better than he did, but I'm not shocked, especially when you look at the Jets coaching staff. Adam Gase should have been fired after last year. Sam Darnold has been a bust. He looks like He reminds me of Mark Sanchez, but Mark Sanchez actually did better than Sam Darnold did. Now, the Jets defense leaves a lot to be desired, and they lost their best player, Jamal Adams. I appreciate that, man. But I'm the Jets. I think they're 6-10. Do it again, man. I'm very disappointed in the way the Jets have gone about this, and I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Le'Veon Bell before the trade deadline. I understand. Listen, that was a smart move by the Bucks picking up Fournette. It didn't cost them anything. He's going to be the bell cow running back there. The other kid, Barber, he's okay. And listen, you need a running game when you have Tom Brady, because Tom Brady also has the arm strength of a flea. I mean, he's Mr. Three-step drop, get it out of the hand quick. That's what he is. So that was a smart move by the Bucks picking up Leonard Fournette. The Buffalo Bills I picked to win that division, and by only a game over the Pats. Josh Allen is the antithesis of Sam Darnold, because this guy, he gets his nose dirty. He'll do whatever it takes to win. He is. I like Josh Allen. I tell you what, he's a guy you can build your franchise around. He might not always put up the prettiest numbers in the world, but if you saw him in the playoffs against the Houston Texans, he held his own. Listen, he wasn't the reason they lost that game. So and they have a very solid team from top to bottom. I love Buffalo winning this game 24-17 over the Jets. Sam Darnold is a bust. Listen, the Jets are going to need another quarterback. Sam Darnold is not that dude. He is an absolute clown. Now, the next game I have are the Chicago Bears, speaking of busts, going into Detroit, taking on the Lions. Mitchell Trubisky could be the worst quarterback in all of pro football, let me tell you. He's the worst starting quarterback in all pro football. And to think that they traded up and used the second pick overall for this clown, he stinks. I mean, Mitchell, they should switch him to a wide receiver or something. He's awful. And it's sad because they're wasting Khalil Mack. They're wasting that defense. And he's got some weapons. I mean, they have a good running back tandem with Tariq Cohen and the kid Montgomery, Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller. They have decent receivers. I mean, the tight end situation is decent, not great, but Trubisky should be able to take advantage of that. He hasn't. He has been absolutely dreadful. Trubisky. See, guys like Trubisky, Sam Darnold, Blake Bortles, they cost coaches and GMs their jobs every year. Every year. And Trubisky only started 1 year in college. He was never great any darn way. I don't understand that move, but they did it and they're paying for it. On the other end of the spectrum, Matthew Stafford has been if you want to say he hasn't been great, well, but he has been a very good quarterback for a long time. He's been a very durable quarterback for a long time. They've not always had the pieces around him. I mean, he did have obviously Megatron early in his career, but look at what he's done with Galladay and those guys. I mean, now he's never had the greatest running back of all time. Yeah, they were stupid. You're absolutely right. Boy, I tell you, could you imagine if Chicago had Deshaun Watson with Khalil Mack and those guys? Man, they would be a force to be reckoned with, let me tell you. But they got old Mitch Trubisky. He stinks. Boy, oh boy. The Lions' defense is good. If Stafford stays healthy, they could win 9 games. Now, I'm not a fan of Matt Patricia. You know how I feel about these Belichick boys. These Belichick boys stink as coaches. I mean, they all look good, as defensive or offensive coordinators, but when you put a headset on them, they stink. But even though he's done, I'm going to say a halfway decent job. I'm going to give the Detroit Lions this win easy. Listen, the Bears won't even score 20 points. Oh, Mitch stinks. And they normally play them pretty decent, but I like the I like the Lions here 24-13 over the Chicago Bears. The next game are the Minnesota Vikings will be hosting the Green Bay Packers. Boy, you know what? If it were 3 years ago, you asked me Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, we know it's not even close. And even now, I'd still pick Aaron Rodgers, but the gap is closing. And it's only because, A, Aaron Rodgers is getting old. And B, you can tell Aaron Rodgers and this coach, they do not like each other. I'm telling you. You look at the way they interact on those sidelines. If you look at the way they did during that NFC Championship game, listen, this could deteriorate even quicker. And then when you add them wasting a first-round pick on a quarterback while Aaron Rodgers is still in the uniform, now he's getting the Brett Favre treatment. They're going to try and push him out after this year. I can see that. And I tell you what, there's going to be 20 other teams that are going to take. Yeah. I don't know if that's you know what, I'm going to get to the Tennessee Titans a little bit later. Listen, Ryan Tannehill is going to play the full year at quarterback. That's come back to bite them. He is not that good. He looked good because he was able to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, and he was able to go play action. He is not that good a quarterback. He got exposed in the AFC Championship game too. He's not that good, let me tell you. They are a good team, but they're going to have to get them a real quarterback because Tannehill is not getting it done. They overachieved last year. And Matt Vrabel is a different type of guy because Vrabel was one of those guys. He reminded me of Teddy Bruschi. He's one of those guys who plays with his heart in his chest. I mean, no, the rest of their team is good, but listen, that quarterback, we already know, you have halfway quarterback play, it doesn't last long in that league. I mean, you can get away with it for 1 year. Ask Jacksonville how that worked out with Blake Bortles. And at that time, they had a team that was built top to bottom. That fell apart real quick. And that's going to happen here, I'm afraid, in Tennessee. But I'll get to them a little bit later. The Vikings have a team from top to bottom very good. But do you trust do you trust Kirk Cousins in a big spot? I sure don't. And for all those guys who talk about, well, he beat Drew Brees, Mr. Drew Brees is almost 50, man. Drew Brees can't throw the ball. Is he very accurate? He definitely is. But he and Brady are the same quarterback. 3 steps, get rid of it quick. They cannot get the ball down the field unless it's a catch and run. They can't. No, you better not trust them. I like Dalvin Cook. Love their defense. Now, they're going to miss the guy that went to Buffalo, Diggs. They're going to miss Stephon Diggs. But listen, this is the Packers. I think this is the last chance for the Packers to make the Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to make it. I just don't think they are. But I do believe they'll win this division. And I think it starts with a very slight win. I'm going with the Packers by a field goal, 27-24 over the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, I have the Miami Dolphins taking on the New England Patriots at Foxborough. No way. No way I'm picking the Dolphins to win this game. There is no way whatsoever. You're going to have Fitzpatrick starting. I mean, I understand that they beat Brady last year to keep them from getting that first round bye. Hey, 77 Smith, how you doing? And I appreciate you dropping by. All the best to you and your loved ones. I appreciate it. Cam Newton is going to have such a huge chip on his shoulder. Now, he might not be great this first game. I understand that. But let me tell you something. As the season goes on and he stays healthy, he's going to get better and better and better. Cam Newton, listen, I understand their running game is so-so. Their offensive line is so-so. But I believe that he was, before he got hurt, he was playing his best football. He really was. He was more accurate with the football. He was making better reads. Oh, I appreciate that. Bless you. I believe Belichick and Newton, I think they're going to have a much better relationship than him and Brady. Now, are they going to win Super Bowls? I don't know about that. We have to see what's going to be around him at the end of the day. I do like the tight end that they picked up in the draft. He's going to be a big time tight end. He's very good. I mean, they'll have Edelman. I listen. It's not even so much that the Patriots are that good. It's just Miami's that bad. And even though Miami's going to improve as they go on in the season, and I believe Tua will start by week 5 or 6. I like the Patriots here big, 31-20 over the Dolphins. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going to Washington to take on the Washington football. We all know what they are. The Washington football team. What a joke. I'm glad Jay Gruden is gone. Jay Gruden should have been fired 3 years ago. I mean, he stinks. He only got that job because he's John Gruden's brother. It's a joke. Dwayne Haskins was not even wanted by that team, but they drafted him. It's going to be interesting to see how Ron Rivera incorporates him. I like Dwayne Haskins coming out of college. I think he does have a chance to be a very good quarterback. Now, they could have already ruined him. I hope that's not the case. The Eagles should win this division over the Cowboys by at least a game. And I understand that Dallas probably has more talent, but I trust the Philadelphia Eagles and their coaching staff more than I trust Dallas and their hierarchy. That's just the way it is. Washington, it's going to take them about 2 to 3 years to dig out of this garbage. And as long as Daniel Snyder is owning that team, I don't think they have a shot. I like the Eagles to double up 34-17 over the Washington so-called football team. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders. Wow, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders go in to Carolina to take on the Panthers and the Teddy Bridgewater era. Teddy Bridgewater, I tell you what, New Orleans, and you knew he had to go. They were not going to keep Bridgewater and Drew Brees because Bridgewater would have been better to move on with than Drew Brees. But they would have never done that. There would have been a mutiny in New Orleans anyway. But I like Bridgewater. I think he's not a great quarterback, but he's a very good quarterback. He knows his limitations. And I think he'll fit in well with this team. Unfortunately, the Panthers' defense is not what it once was, and losing Luke Kuechly, that was huge. Obviously, Thomas Davis is with the Washington so-called football team. Gosh. John Gruden is the most overrated coach in pro football. I mean, there are a couple of guys in sports that actually stole money. John Gruden is one. The other guy was Phil Jackson. He stole money from the Knicks. And being a New Yorker, I didn't say I was a Knicks fan, but being a New Yorker, seeing what Phil Jackson did, I mean, he fleeced. And I don't even feel bad because I can't stand Dolan. He's a clown. But he fleeced him out of that money, boy. Let me tell you. The same way that John Gruden fleeced Mark Davis and Al Davis out of that money. But I do believe that the Raiders right now have a better team than the Panthers from top to bottom. Now, Derek Carr, it's all on him. I don't think he's that great. And they have not committed to him. But they have the pieces in place. They have that running back. Jacobs is an outstanding running back. They have the wide receiver core. Their defense has improved. I like the Raiders here, 31-27 in an upset, so to speak, against the Carolina Panthers. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars could end up with the number 1 pick in the draft. They're that dreadful. You talk about starting from the ground up. That's what they are doing. The Colts are in definite win now mode. I mean, you can tell that. That's why you go after a Phillip Rivers. Jacoby Brissett, I mean, he held the fort down a little bit. He's one of those guys you can win like 2 to 3 games. But if you plan on making him your franchise quarterback, that means your franchise is in trouble. Phillip Rivers, luckily he went to the right team because this offensive line is good. See, the Chargers offensive line is not a great pass blocking offensive line. They were more of a run blocking offensive line, which is why you saw the numbers that Austin Ekeler was putting up for the Chargers. Now, he does have a good running back here with Marlon Mack. T.Y. Hilton is one of the most underrated wide receivers in all of pro football. I like the Colts here 38-21 over the Jaguars. Next up, the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, we've been having some fun with Odell Beckham. He had a dreadful year last year. A lot of that had to do with injury. A lot of it had to do also with the quarterback, Mayfield. And a lot of it, I think OBJ, he let things go to his head. He did. Listen, I bet you all the Giants fans are happy he's not there. Let me tell you. Baker Mayfield, I don't think he's a bust, but I don't think he's as great a quarterback as they made him out to be. And it's sad, he has a wonderful running back. Nick Chubb is great. But this is why the Browns are the Browns. Why would you sign Kareem Hunt to that contract? I understand that Chubb is still under the rookie deal. But it almost sounds like you don't even want Chubb there. I'll take him. I tell you what, if I'm a Steeler fan, I'd want Nick Chubb. But, the Browns are the Browns. I tell you what, Lamar Jackson, he won the MVP. He deserved to win it. He choked twice in the playoffs. Let me tell you, he was bad. Both playoff games, he was dreadful. Can't have that. Cannot have that. Now, right now, he's the best quarterback in the AFC North. He is. Unless you tell me that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be the Big Ben he was before he got hurt, then I'll say the Steelers have the better quarterback. Until then, it is Lamar Jackson. They have the defense. Now, I understand the Earl Thomas thing, but I don't think that's going to be a distraction for this team. They have the receivers. They have a good running game. I think they have to be careful in running this kid too much because he's one injury away from being RG3. And you see how that ends up. You don't want that. But I like the Ravens. And now the Browns are going to play them tough. These division games, especially these two. These two guys hate each other. Those two teams do not like each other. Like the Baltimore Ravens here, 34-27 over the Cleveland Browns. Next up, the Tampa Bay Bucks go into New Orleans to take on the Saints. Tom Brady, these basically are the same two type of teams. Mike Evans does have a little bit of a hamstring issue, but I don't foresee it being a big deal. And listen, you have Godwin there. Godwin was just as good, if not better, than Mike Evans. Now you have Gronk and O.J. Howard. Their tight end tandem is going to be tremendous. They have a decent offensive line, and you need that with Brady. Their defense has to improve. Their defense got a little bit better at the end of the season, but they're not great, let me tell you. Their defense, their secondary is not great at all. And when you have a terrible secondary with a front that really cannot get to the quarterback, then Drew Brees is going to pick you apart, especially in that dome. Now, obviously, there's not going to be real crowds there, but that fast track in New Orleans, they play much different at home, no question. Michael Thomas is one of the top receivers in all of football. Saints defense is a lot better than people think, especially now. Marcus Lattimore has to show up. He has not been the same since his rookie year. But in a shootout, I like the Saints. I like the Saints 38-27 over the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's who I'm going with that particular game. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals go up against the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, Jimmy G, I told you how I felt about him last year. He's not that good. He got exposed really bad. Listen, Arizona, if they get off to a good enough start, you know what, Third Ward Colombian, they could make the playoffs. I do not disagree with you with that. Listen, like I said, 49ers can go from first to worst with this team, with Jimmy G at the helm. Because Jimmy G's not that good. I mean, there's some rumblings that Mostert wants to get out of there because he wanted a new contract. They did not capitulate to him. I love Kyler Murray in this offense, and I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury guy. I'm not. But I am a fan of his offense. I'm a huge fan of DeAndre Hopkins. I am. And he's going to fit in real well. Obviously, the great Larry Fitzgerald. Next stop is Hall of Fame for him. Their defense has to improve, though. I'm not a fan of their defense. They did not get to the quarterback enough for my liking. But the 49ers, I can see a hangover here. I like Arizona in the upset 28-24 over the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Sunday game, I have the Cowboys going to L.A. to take on the Rams to open up that new stadium. They are out of the L.A. Coliseum. Wish they'd stay there. I like the Coliseum. That's one of the great venues in all the professional sports. No Todd Gurley. Now he's with the Falcons. But they do have Devontae Freeman. So that's top running backs. Jared Goff is okay. I mean, he is a system quarterback. That's what he is. I like Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks. I mean, I'm a fan of that offense when it's right. You know I can't stand the Cowboys. Cannot stand them. They have a lot of talent, but you can hear the whispers. Ezekiel Elliott is not the same running back. Listen, Mike McCarthy's going to be a yes man, which means Jerry Jones is still running this team. The Cowboys defense underwhelmed last year. They were supposed to be a much better unit than they were. And I know statistically they checked all the boxes, but in big spots, the Cowboys could not make stops. They couldn't. Now, they do have a very strong linebacking core. They lost some guys on the defensive line. Their offensive line is not the same, and they're going to be hurting without Travis Frederick, who retired. I like the Rams here at home, 27-24 over the Cowboys. And now we have the two Monday night games. Obviously, my favorite team, the Steelers, are going up against the Giants at MetLife. The return of Big Ben Roethlisberger. He normally starts out slow anyway. James Conner, this is a big year for him. It's a make or break year as far as him being the bell cow guy. I do like what the Steelers did in the draft. I like that receiver Claypool. By the middle of the season, he's the huge target, that Big Ben hasn't had since Plaxico Burress. James Washington, he needs to make strides. I tell you what, Deontay Johnson is going to be a number one receiver. He's going to end up being better than Juju Smith-Schuster. And I like Juju, but it seems like they're trying to run him out of town. I don't know why. He's been nothing but a good soldier for the Steelers. I don't know what happened there. We already know what the Steelers defense is about. We're going to miss Hargrave, no question about it, but we have enough presence on the line. Hayward, we took care of that contract. A healthy Stephon Tuitt. The edge rushers in Watt and Dupree. Our secondary is actually good. Devin Bush is going to be an All-Pro. Book it. This guy is healthy, and it's sad that Ryan Shazier, obviously, we all knew he was going to retire, and I want nothing but the best for him. This kid, Devin Bush, is a special guy. Special, special player. He has the chance. He could be, the last great inside linebacker we had was Farrier. Lawrence Timmons was good also, but he's going to be better than those guys. Much better. And I like Vince Williams as well. Our secondary, much better. Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, Sutton, very good players. Brought back Sean Davis for depth. The Giants, they should make some. I don't trust. That's another winner judge as coach. Another one of those Belichick boys who never do well as head coaches. Daniel Jones was pretty decent last year, but he turned the ball over a lot. He did a lot of those fumbles, get hit, fumble, not securing the football, sort of like Eli did at the end of his career. Now, he doesn't throw as many interceptions, and he's a better athlete, too. Saquon Barkley has to be the man for the Giants. If the Giants are going to win 9 to 10 games, it's all about Saquon Barkley. Their receiving core should be much better this year. They had so many injuries. That was a cavalcade of injuries last year. The Giant defense is dreadful, even though they did get Logan Ryan. That was a good pickup for them. They needed that. Listen, would I be shocked if the Giants won this game? Absolutely not. And the Steelers do start out pretty slow for the most part, but I like the Steelers here at MetLife. I like them by the score of 27-23. It's going to be a very close game, very entertaining. But I like the Steelers to pull out the W. And the last game will be the Tennessee Titans traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. That was a devastating injury, and Vaughn Miller will be out for the season, more than likely. You talk about taking the wind out of someone's sails. Bad enough you lose Chris Harris Jr., then you lose your best pass rusher. Now Bradley Chubb is going to be double-teamed to no end. And their defense fell off a little bit last year as it was. Even though they played, they were okay. But now, when you lose that guy, forget it. The young quarterback, Drew Lock, he's okay. They do have a bell cow running back now with Melvin Gordon. They have decent receivers, Sutton and those guys. The tight end's decent. The Tennessee Titans, they do have a very good team from top to bottom. I do not trust Ryan Tannehill. I just don't. They have a great running back in Derrick Henry. Their offensive line, great defensive line. They have a great safety in Byard. He's wonderful. Jarrell Casey's on. I know he's been a stalwart for a very long time. Listen, the Broncos are I don't think they're gonna win any more than 5 games. The Broncos, and I don't see them winning this one. I like the Titans here, 24-13 over the Broncos at Mile High Stadium, or at least what used to be Mile High Stadium. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Those are my NFL picks for Week 1 of 2020. Thank you so much for dropping by. Please like, share, and subscribe. Uncle Claude signing out. Take care, and God bless.